Hello and welcome to the GCN Racing News Show. I'm here this week as unfortunately Dan has broken his ankle and is having a tough time at home coping with his injuries. I'm sure you'll join me in wishing him all the best in his recovery. This week on the show though, we discuss, is pro cycling better than ever? As the news of B&B's sponsor crisis continues, we debate if professional cycling is actually in a better place than it's ever been. Plus, we round up the Cyclo-cross news, wrap up the latest round of the UCI Champions League, as well as all the latest news, rumours and contract talk from the world of racing. First up then, and let's start with an update on B&B Hotels, and there is unfortunately no positive news in regard to their situation. Speaking in a recent interview with La Telegram, B&B Hotels KTM's general manager, Jerome Pino, admitted that his team currently has no confirmed co-sponsors for 2023, and the future of his Breton outfit is in doubt. In his words, if he doesn't find a co-sponsor soon, then the team will not survive. Pino has explained, however, that he does have 5 serious leads for potential co-sponsors. The UCI's deadline to apply for Pro Team and World Tour licences passed on November the 15th last week. Though in light of the difficult situation, cycling's governing body have afforded Pino some respite. The French team boss now has until the end of November to deliver on the expectations that he set out earlier this year. There are difficult weeks ahead, not only for Pino, but also the riders who have reportedly already signed onto the new project, like Cavendish, Cordon Ragot, Max Richese, Case Bowl, Ramon Sinkeldam, Nick Scholz and Stephen Williams. We all still cross our fingers for better news soon. It's not just B&B Hotels who are in difficulty though. L'École Wahoo are reportedly in difficulty too, mainly due to sponsorship loss and a €400,000 hole in team finances. Riders have been told to look elsewhere as team manager Tom Varney attempts to save the squad's future. More tough news then, and we'll bring you more on that situation when we get it. In light of this, however, you'd be forgiven for thinking, here we go again, and bemoaning the unsustainable sponsorship model which funds professional cycling teams. But let me stop you there, because we let our resident stat nerd Killian Kelly loose on the data on this one, and unlike the time I made him try and cycle up Prospect Place, this time he hasn't let us down.
Jesus!
So bear with me while I explain the nerd bit. If you take all of the teams which have ridden the Tour de France every year and took an average of the number of years that each of those teams had existed, you'd get a sense of how stable the top of men's professional cycling really is. For this year, 2022, the average length of time that a Tour de France team has been in existence was just under 19 years, which is a hell of a lot more than I was expecting. I think we're used to thinking of cycling teams as these temporary things. Here this year, gone the next, but it's not really the case anymore. AG2R Citroën have been around for 30 years. Cofidis and FDJ, not far behind, were both created 25 years ago. Jumbo-Visma have been in the bunch for 38 years, and Movistar, the oldest of the lot, have been winning races for 42 years. Only 3 teams in this year's Tour had been part of cycling for less than 10 years. They were Israel Premier Tech, Bahrain Victorious, and yes, B&B Hotels, who've only been going since 2018. Now, there's always a bit of interpretation required when tracing the lineage of a team. Is UAE Team Emirates a direct descendant of Lampre or not? Does Astana get to claim the illustrious history of the Once team? And who really knows how to unpick Leopard Trek, Radio Shack and Czech Segafredo? I guess we'll just have to trust that Killian knows what he's doing in his stat dungeon. But regardless of the finer details, the numbers don't lie. The top of men's cycling has never been more stable. Again, despite the potential B&B news, teams actually don't tend to disappear very often anymore. Compare the current set of teams with the way things were back in the 80s and 90s. Teams came and went in less than a year back then. 30 years ago at the Tour de France, there were 11 teams which were less than 5 years old. It was like the Wild West of sponsorship. Nowadays, there is a steady presence of extremely rich benefactors, some private companies and some state-backed. How we all feel about that is probably a topic for a whole other video in itself, but the money they have provided has contributed to this sense of stability and contributed to the long continuity of teams. But even if you look down a level at the pro teams, or pro Conti as I would have always called them, there's stability there too. Of the 17 teams at that level, the average time in existence is over 15 years, and only 4 of them have been around less than 10 years. So, despite the uncertainty around the future of Mark Cavendish and the future of the B&B team, it's not all doom and gloom. It seems to me like the idea of the World Tour has worked, but it remains to be seen whether the relegation that the UCI have brought in will begin to rock that stability. As always though, let us know in the comment section below what you think and get involved in the debate. Professional cycling, more stable than it's ever been? Interested to hear your thoughts. On to the Cyclo-cross news now. Merckxplas was the destination for the latest round of the Super Prestige on Saturday. Celine Del Carmen Alvarado managed her second straight Super Prestige win for Alpecin-Deceuninck. The previous world champion riding away solo on the first lap, never to be seen again in a dominant show of strength. Denise Betsema took second, 18 seconds down after chasing all race, whilst Inge van der Heijden rounded off the podium. Laurens Sweeck took the men's race again in a solo victory, beating Lars van der Haar in second and Michael van Tollenhout to the top spot. World champion Tom Pidcock started his cross campaign, finishing back in 7th after a series of bad luck which saw him go down in a heavy crash, which he managed to break a shoe. Sweeck held his lead, however, for the entirety of the 8-lap race, crossing the line with a 5-second advantage to take the win and in the process strengthening his Super Prestige overall lead. The 6th round of the UCI Cyclo-cross World Cup followed on Sunday in Overijssel, with Puck Peerters putting down a brilliant performance to claim her first World Cup victory of her career. The 20-year-old riding for Alpecin-Deceuninck rode away on the opening lap of the muddy course and then extended her lead for a solo victory on the remaining 4 laps, taking the win by over 1 minute. Fem van Empel would be best of the rest for Power Source's Bringol, whilst Shirin van Anrooy for Balois Trek Lions took 3rd, some 1 minute 36 seconds back too. In the overall standings of the World Cup, Fem van Empel still leads with 220 points, Alvarado sits in 2nd with 130 points, and Peerters is in 3rd with 125 points after the weekend's victory. In the men's race, European champion Michael van Tollenhout got the better of world champion Tom Pidcock to take victory. The Power Source's bingo rider coming out on top after a race-long battle between the 2 champions, which saw van Tollenhout take his first World Cup win of the season. Pidcock, must be said, also putting down a cracking ride, coming back from 43rd position after an early mechanical. However, he did go down on the penultimate lap, giving the advantage back to van Tollenhout. Van der Haar, riding for Balois Trek Lions, rode to a solo 3rd place, which saw him take his 5th podium in 5 World Cup events. The race for top spot in the men's World Cup standings is really on, with Elie Esbert leading by just 1 point ahead of Laurens Sweeck. From the muddy cyclocross courses of Belgium to the smooth velodrome of Berlin now, where the 2nd round of the UCI Track Champions League took place. Katie Archbold would take the night in the women's endurance category, beating Jennifer Volonté into 2nd place in both the scratch and elimination races. However, Volonté would hang on to the blue overall Endurance Series leader jersey after her strong riding back in Mallorca. The pair dominated the night's racing, both going clear on lap 3 of 20 in the scratch race to duel it out for the win after gaining a lap on the bunch. In the elimination, they were again the last 2 riders standing, as Archbold once more proved too strong in a one-on-one sprint situation. There was slight disarray throughout the elimination when Lily Williams continued riding after being eliminated due to a miscommunication, causing a number of laps of slight chaos, as is often the case in elimination events. Archbold, though, using her experience, however, to make it through the melee in one piece and at the front. Volonté holds on to the overall lead now with 66 points. Archbold is up to 60 points in 2nd, and Lily Williams of the US is 3rd with 43 points. In the men's endurance category, Oliver Wood took the scratch race win, whilst Dylan Bibick of Canada claimed the elimination. Matthias Guillemette moved into the overall lead, however, after previous series leader Mark Stewart only managed 8th and 9th placings on the night. Guillemette leads by 5 points now on a total of 55. In the sprint categories, the men's event saw the rivalry between Matthew Richardson of Australia and Harry Levresen of the Netherlands develop once more. The duo contested the head-to-head sprint finale, with Richardson again coming out on top as in Mallorca. But Levresen bounced back in the Keirin event to repeat his victory from the opening round also. That means that Levresen holds on to his lead with 74 points, whilst Richardson sits in 2nd, only 2 points adrift. Stefan Bottiger of Germany is in 3rd place with 58 points. Last up, the women's sprint saw Martha Bayona of Colombia move to the top of the overall standings, knocking Shana Bras-Penninx of Holland from the top spot. The Dutchwoman was outside the top 6 in the keirin and found herself knocked out in the opening heat of the sprint. Bayona, however, finished second in the keirin in a photo finish with Kelsey Mitchell of Canada, but it would be Mathilde Gross and Lorien van Reysen who'd fight it out in the sprint final, with Gross of France beating the Dutchwoman to victory. Bayona leads the standings with 49 points, Mitchell is 1 point back in second, and Gross sits in third at 46 points. Bras-Penninx meanwhile slips back to fourth on 45 points. Saint-Quentin sees the series continue next weekend over in France, the third round of 5 of the series, so still all to play for. There was also track racing at the Ghent 6 last week. It was bad luck though for Stijn Steels, who unfortunately fractured his vertebra during the opening night of racing. The Belgian rider for Quick-Step Alpha Vinyl was stretchered off the track but remained conscious in what was an extremely heavy crash. He ended up with 2 broken vertebrae, 3 ribs and a lung contusion. We here at GCN wish you all the best in your recovery, Stijn. Lindsay de Wilde and Robbie Gies took the overall win, using a victory in the Madison to seal the deal. This year's race was the last for Ghent 6 legend Ilio Kaiser, whose career saw him take to the boards at the Ghent 6 across a whopping 3 decades. Kaiser and his partner De Buist would end up the night third overall, whilst Jori Havoc and Fabio van der Bosch took second. In other news, there have been a number of contract announcements in the past week. Ben Turner has extended with Ineos Grenadiers until 2026. The British rider showing strongly in the classics this past season and will be a key protagonist in the years to come at Ineos. Interestingly, by the time his lengthy contract expires, he'll have only just passed the cut-off for the Tour de France's Young Riders jersey. Jan Pedro Lopez has been rewarded for his strong riding at the Giro after finishing 10th and spending 10 days in the Maglia Rossa. The Spaniard has now re-signed with Trek Segafredo through till 2025. Good news too for Sonny Colbrelli, who recently spoke about his decision to retire from professional cycling due to cardiac issues which presented this year in near-fatal circumstances. The Italian won Roubaix in 2021 and will continue to play a role at Bahrain Victorious, where he has now been assured of an ambassador role. He'll represent sponsors and the team, but also have a presence at races, especially in the classics, where it's hoped he'll play a valuable role guiding riders. Great to see Sonny will stay within the sport after some incredibly tough luck this year. Movistar have announced 3 new sports directors, with Javier Murillo, Jürgen Rohlens and Yvonne Aladonwa coming on board to the core group of director sportives in 2023. Rohlens, the most recent to retire from racing, will bring a wealth of experience from the current pro peloton to back up an already experienced roster of DSs. Rumours are also circling that Mikel Landa will target the Tour de France next year. Makes sense given the race's Spanish grand depart from the Basque Country, and I myself think that will be an incredibly interesting start for Landa, and he'll certainly liven up the opening stages of racing. Moving on now though to the racing we have coming up this week. The Track Champions League heads to Saint-Quentin this weekend for round 3. The likes of Mathilde Gross and Maria Divine Kwame will be the ones to watch in front of a home crowd, and that's available to all GCN Plus subscribers. There's also another double race weekend in the Cyclo-cross, starting with the X2O series on Saturday, known as the Urban Cross, because the course is right in the middle of downtown Kortrijk. That race is available worldwide except for Belgium. Finally, on Sunday, it's the next round of the UCI World Cup from Hulst, where we'll get to see the one and only Mathieu van der Poel make his cyclocross season debut. That's available to watch in Europe, excluding Denmark, Norway, Italy, Belgium and the Netherlands. This week's documentary on GCN Plus follows the urban bike race scene of inner city London. It's called Off the Streets, and the aim of the organisers is to put on races and events to break down barriers and encourage a wider, more diverse group of people into the sport of cycling. Here's a quick teaser.
Very white dominant sport, and at times I would be the only non-white person there.
I want to get more girls into cycling.
Oh no, this one's looking nuts, the whole pack. That's what happens when you put your mind to it.
Everyone in!
I'll catch you on the streets.
Great stuff. A quick look ahead as well to next week's documentary, which you'll actually find me in. During the summer, I was lucky enough to ride through the Gobi Desert with Jenny Graham and explore the incredible country of Mongolia. It's left a lasting impression on me, I must say. It was just such a beautiful country, open space like I've never experienced before, and the friendliest people you could possibly imagine. The film sees us track our way towards the Hongrenelles, the largest sand dune system in Asia, where we attempted to ride up and down its highest peak, which is close to 300 metres high. Along the way, we met goat herders, rode through an ice gorge in the desert, discovered the eerie location of where dinosaurs were first discovered, and met the many amazing people who call this place home. If you get a chance to watch on GCN+, do let me know your thoughts. Mongolia, it was just simply an incredible place, and I can't wait to share the documentary with you too. That, though, is about all we have time for this week. I hope Dan will be back with you next week. Enjoy your racing, and we'll see you soon.